Someone's ramming a Hemi behind Mike's shop.
Is that your shop at home or workshop? Like,
That's his workshop.
oh yeah.
Okay, boys, let's have a good game out there.
Three sticks on the ice.
Check, back, check, fake, check.
All right, boys, let's fucking go. Pucks in deep.
Are we game on?
We are game on. Beer
Game
crack
on,
time.
boys.
Let's go.
All right.
Game on.
Cheers. Well, welcome to episode 5 of Straight Off the Pipe. I am your co-host, Dash, otherwise known as Dash in the Park. We are coming at you live from Echo Studios here at the head offices of Straight Off the Pipe. And chained up with me in this orange and blue zoo, as always, is the warden over there in cell block 99. That's Mike Dursa. How you doing, sidekick? What do you think, buddy?
Well, tonight I got a special challenge for anybody that's listening. You can count the stars on the background there, kind of like a Pilsner beer can rabbit. You know, let's see how many you come up with. I'm not even sure how many is on there, and I put them on, so it'll be a fun little game. There's little twinkling stars all over the screen, and I'd like to welcome a good guy I've met once. He bought me supper and a couple of beers, and we had a bullshit, and it was a good time. Mr. Rob Gunville. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Hey guys, how's it going, man?
Doing well. Excited to have you here, buddy. I've always been a big fan of yours on Twitter, and I think you're an entertaining follow. I think you're witty. I think you're self-deprecating, and always doing it with style, man. So I always look out for those guys, and I think ever since I first started reading those tweets, I fell in love with you. So, you don't take yourself too seriously, and I love that about you as well. At the same time, I think when the serious matters do come, I find myself on the same side of the fence as you with where your opinions go. So I'm really excited to have you on the show to see how we can make this work.
I'm happy to be here, man. It's good. I've talked with you guys lots, and obviously met Mike, and it's just good people, easy to talk to, and that's the kind of people I like.
Yeah, we feel the same way about you.
So,
and Mike owes me dinner. He's been trying to repay it, but he owes me dinner still.
I'll get on that list too. I'll take a dinner.
You're kind of elusive like the Yeti, so I'm glad we got you nailed down for tonight.
This is true, dude.
I figured the longer I drag this out, the longer we got to be friends, and you know what I mean. And I feel like maybe once you buy me dinner, you're gonna be like, okay, see you later.
Oh, this guy. It's not what he seems like on Twitter at all.
No, there's a humble guy there. You got to get to know him. He seems aggressive on Twitter, but it's a rugged exterior for a big teddy bear.
Yeah, big softy on the inside. I think that's pretty easy to see. Durst asked me when we first started this thing on episode 1, and I asked him the same question back. So I think we're going to put you on the spot too, buddy. This is an Oilers podcast. We're straight off the pipe. We like to be straight off the pipeline. Of all the Oilers Twitter's verse out there, you represent pipeline maybe more than anybody else, man. Like you can tell us how many kilometers you put on that truck in a year, but I'm sure it'll be jaw dropping. But I'm super interested. How'd you become an Oilers fan? What drew you to the game of hockey? Why do you love it?
It started with my dad. I grew up around the Calder area, Highlands, never very far from the Coliseum. And, I was born in 78, so I was pretty young for the big cup run. But my dad was glued to that TV. And if it wasn't hockey, it was boxing. And, so as I got older, I started to know the names a little better, a little more and stuff like that. But I mean, my dad had his friends over all the time, every game, and guys would drop in for beers, and I got to stay up later instead of, mom saying, hey, you got to go to bed. Dad's like, yeah, we're watching hockey. So, I glued myself to the TV so I could stay up. And as I got a little older, started learning more about the players, I kind of became a fan on my own. And, I grew up on, I guess it'd be 58th Street on 118th Ave, and it was walking distance to the Coliseum.
Yeah, man. And,
I found out from a buddy that a standing ticket to get into the Coliseum was $12. At that point, I had a paper route for the Edmonton Sun, and I go do my thing. It was one of my aunts, actually, that was like area manager or whatever, but, go buy a $12 ticket. And I'd go in and I'd stand up there and I'd just watch hockey, and I can't say that I watched it with a discerning eye or understanding exactly what's going on in there, so that was a good time. And it just carried on from there. Like, I had an uncle who gave me my first jersey, which was a Gretzky jersey. It was a knockoff, and it was like 10 sizes too big. So rolled all the way up so you couldn't even see the lines on the sleeves. But I mean, I wore that thing until it was, basically dust. So,
well, you tucked it in one side anyways, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. So I wore that thing everywhere. I slept in it. I played in it. The whole nine. And that's kind of where being an Oilers fan started for me.
That's fantastic. So did you play hockey when you were growing up as well?
No. I really wish I could have. Parents didn't really have all that money, all that kind of stuff. So I played softball in school. I loved football. I played football, and I got into basketball eventually and stuff like that. So that's a game that I love, and I think I'm very much in common with Dursa with that. I mean, I know Dursa loves basketball, and when I moved away from Edmonton, we did a stint in Toronto for a while. That's where I became a Blue Jays fan. We came back and we ended up moving out to the country out by Sylvan Lake, and they didn't have a football team unless I wanted to go to Lacombe. I could play like a rec softball, but it was nothing. So all I had was basketball, and it was good enough for me. And I had a lot of friends out there. They all played hockey and stuff like that, but it's a pretty expensive sport. And I mean, I
sure.
believe you guys played. It takes a lot of time and effort and, from your parents and all that stuff. And so, that just wasn't in the cards for me exactly. But, I got no regrets. I played lots of road hockey and, stuff like that. So that was fun.
You still dropped the mitts like Semenko and still made the game-winning save like Fuhrer and still scored the game-winning goal in this Game 7 of the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And
every game was Stanley Cup game. But, it was good. I know what a frozen tennis ball off the face feels like, and it's not, stuff like that. And, you forget a tennis ball and some asshole brings one of those orange, street hockey balls, and that's just bad news all the way around. So, yeah. But, I wish I could have played. I'm not the biggest guy. I probably would have hit hard. I would never have given up, but I definitely don't have the skill or the talent to do what some of these kids do. You know, like they're amazing athletes. So, you know, I think people are awfully hard on them, and you don't realize, I guess, the effort that these guys put in to get where they are. You know, the sacrifices. So.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You know, I think like when you're, I grew up in Saskatchewan for a little while, and one of my best friends, Willie, they used to billet for the Regina Pats, and so there was a point in time where I was spending every day and night at his house, and so I saw some great kids go through there, Matt Hubauer and Zach Rowe, and guys that were absolutely like studs for that team, and I'll never forget some of those kids that came through and just hated hockey. Like they just hated hockey, right? Because it's a full-time job, and you sacrifice your youth and you sacrifice your childhood for a certain extent. And sure, they go out and have fun, but it's different, right? And you're in the limelight early, and so it is a lot of sacrifice, you know. And it makes me feel bad sometimes as the way we treat our players as fans and in our city and some of the other Canadian cities, because I think it starts to affect our reputation a little bit, you know.
Yeah. No, I think that you know, to what you were saying about the sacrifice and all that stuff. I mean, they didn't get a childhood. They didn't get to make the mistakes that a lot of us did, you know. So we kind of sit on a high horse, and we look at these players and go, well, you got to be perfect, you know. And the world we live in now, and these kids that are coming up that are 18 years old, well, they're born in 2003. You know, they're born in the technology era. And social media and everything's out there for the world to see, so they have to be perfect, you know. And it's got to be tough, because I mean, there's mistakes I made as a kid, and I would hate to go for, say, a job interview and then be able to just roll a dex and say, hey, remember that time you got so wasted that you went into your buddy's yard and shit underneath a tree or whatever, you know, just something stupid. And then I go, oh man, really? Like, you know about that? You know, like, I'm not that guy anymore. Yeah. And
remember that time you went to the washroom and your friends wrote something on your phone and tweeted it for you?
Yeah. You know, and I guess that's maybe a little bit of a segue into some of the stuff that's going on in NHL now. But and I zero excuse for any of it. You know, I try to stay out of a lot of that stuff, because situationally it's not my business. You know what I mean? I can have an opinion on certain things. I try to keep my opinion to myself mostly, but kids are kids, you know. Yeah. I'm 43 and I'm still not done growing up, still making mistakes, you know. And these kids are 18, 20 years old. Some team, because he plays hockey good, are throwing $2, $3, $4 million a year at them. I mean, you give that to me when I was a kid, I'd be off the rails.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Hey, they just don't get enough credit, I don't think, either. You're put under in a spotlight and under the circumstances of all that pressure and expect them to come out perfect and or, you know, always behave. And I tell you, what you said resonated with me. I'm 45. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out who I am. I'm still making mistakes. I talk to my counselor about all sorts of problems still. You know what I mean? And talking about it works. It's okay, right? But ultimately, I can't imagine if I was sitting here right now and I'm in my studio in my home office and somebody barged in my door and started screaming at me, telling me how to do my job. And you know, like, how would you like it if you pulled up to the rig and 10,000 guys were yelling, shoot, you know, like, shut up.
And it's funny, actually, because I tweeted the other day, and it's hard when you tweet something, because it's almost like texting, say with a friend or whatever, where things get lost in translation. And I realized after I tweeted this that it kind of went sideways a little bit, but it was more or less like, I can't remember who it was saying, was it Dougie Hamilton, about not wanting to come up to Canada, said it was too hard, you know. And I thought about it after. I'm like, you know, you're a grown man. Us idiots on Twitter, and there's some of us that are more stupid than others, will say a lot of things, hurtful things, they'll say stupid things. But as a man and playing hockey and under a microscope, you know, your team has fans and all that stuff. People are going to have opinions, whether they're right or wrong. You know, you got to be able to turn your brain off and just be like, okay, this is just noise from the side, you know? And what I do in my job is nowhere near what they do for scrutiny. But being in the oil field, you got to have a really thick skin. You're going to meet guys that they want to be an asshole to you just because they can be an asshole, you know, and they want to push you. They want to test you. You know, when I first started Roughneck and I got trained with a corn broom, you know, if I put my hands in the wrong spot, if I stood between the driller and the stump and he couldn't see, stuff like that. I mean, I got a corn broom to the back, you know, and there was no crying. There was no like, oh, whatever, because they'll get rid of you. You're done. So I look at these hockey players, and what Joe Blow tweets from his basement, wherever, should have no bearing on what a hockey player does. You know, he should be confident enough in himself to say, hey, I'm the cream of the crop. I made the NHL. There isn't very many people, even as a shitty NHL pro, there's not a lot of people that can touch him, you know? So why are they worried about what we're saying? You know, come play with Connor, come play with Leon, come play with some of the greatest players in the world right now that we're lucky to have, and try to build something. And if you don't want to come here because you think media is too tough, then I don't want you here, you know, and that's just my opinion, you know, because that's where those 5 and 6 year contracts turn into 2 years, and we're buying them out and retaining salary because they don't want to play here anymore, and we're getting rid of them, you know?
Yeah, exactly. What do you think, Durs?
Who's your favorite player growing up, Robbie?
I might get shit on for this, but it was for the Oilers, it was Ranford. It was always Ranford. I don't know why, but I fell in love with him. Overall, though, it was always Lemieux. You know, I had a thing for Lemieux. I'm not sure why. I just gravitated to him. So I watched as many Pittsburgh games as I could get my hands on, and obviously I was a huge Oilers fan. But you know, you can be fans of other teams, other people, whatever. And so yeah, Lemieux was the big one.
How much?
I loved watching him and Gretz go back and forth, like back in the day.
It was fun, man. It's like, you know, Barry Bonds and Sosa. You know, it's that back and forth. Like this guy, you know, this guy scored 3 goals this game and got 2 assists or whatever. And the next game, you can see, you know, Lemieux comes out and he does the same thing, if not more. So it was awesome, man. Like that was a heyday of just offense, and you know, it's a good time.
For sure.
How proud are you? How proud are you of the Edmonton Oilers having a guy like Ethan Bear on the team?
Super proud. I'm Métis. I did not grow up on a reservation or anything like that, but I knew enough. Like my dad did. Family, they're from north of Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, La Ronge, and you know, hearing how he grew up and all that stuff, you know, like you're counted out as a kid, and especially a kid who's native. You know, it's and I heard this, and this is just my own experience. You know, you're going to grow up and be a waste of skin. You're never going to graduate. You're going to be an alcoholic. You're going to be a drug dealer or drug addict. You know, you'll never hold down a job. And some people, that wears on. For me, it became kind of like armor. You know, it's I wanted to prove everybody wrong. So I started working very young, very early, and there's not one person out there right now that can say that I'm a failure in that aspect of my life. So when I think about Ethan Bear, he probably didn't have all the opportunity in the world to do what he's doing, and he probably had to fight, and his parents probably had to struggle to keep him going and get him to where he is. And I got huge respect for that, you know. So it cannot be an easy thing when there's so many good players out there that have never stepped foot on NHL ice. And for him to be one of the ones to do it, that's, you know, it's awesome. And that goes for anybody. That goes for guys like Jujar. You know, that goes for, you know, just any person that's, I guess, what we would call not privileged. you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's we need more of it, and I'm sure there's a lot of kids out there that could be amazing, and do amazing things that just never got the chance, you know. So I think that everyone should have that chance.
I mean, we already talked about the sacrifice it takes for kids to go through what they have to go through to make it to that level of hockey. So, you know, if there's any type of added suppression on top of that, it just gives that, you know, accomplishment so much more polished for me. I got so much time for Ethan Bear.
Yeah,
I'm quite vocal about him being my second favorite Oiler, and will be for as long as he can be. Like hearing him speak, hearing his character, the confidence in his voice when he talks, he comes off as educated. He doesn't say or like he's just a super impressive human being. I'm proud as hell to have him as an Oiler as well.
Oh no, for sure. You know, and we can't keep guys forever. You know, no one's ever going to be an Oiler forever. And he's just one of those guys that is going to be like Smitty to me or whatever, you know, like, or even to a small degree now, like I've got a big soft spot for Jordan Eberle, you know, and wherever those guys end up, you know, I'm going to be a fan of them. Not necessarily the team, but I want them to do good, you know, and while Bear's here, I want him to do good. You know, I want him to prove everyone wrong. And probably all the people that he grew up around that said, hey, you're not going to make it or you're not going to mount anything. Well, here he is. I want to see him do the best, you know, he can do.
Yeah, me too.
Who's your favorite on the team right now, Rob?
Man, that's a tough one. You know, like for everyone, you know, they would say Connor. I just think he's a shoo-in for everything, you know. And this might not be so outside of the box, but I love Leon. You know, I think he hasn't tapped into all his potential yet. He's a big kid. I think that he can start banging and hitting, and I don't want to see him hurt. You know, I don't want him to put himself in situations where, you know, it's not optimal. But I look at a guy like Ovechkin, and he's a big guy. And once he figured out that he can on the ice and score, he's dangerous as hell. He put everything in line, and I think Leon needs to learn that because that's not Connor's game. He's a finesse player, he's quick, and I think when other teams play the Oilers, they look at Connor and they go, okay, well, it's a murderer's row. You know, like we've gone at this and earn us with the speed. We have another guy and force and then score a goal. You know, so yeah, I think Connor's got so much potential. You know, or sorry, Leon has got so much potential to be a lot more, and he's already. I mean, he's an MVP. He's a good player.
24 and 25 years old, right? It's crazy if these two guys get better. Like when Connor answered the question, do you get better? I'm 24 years old.
Yeah.
We're so lucky to have those guys. I really feel that way.
Yeah.
What else would we want to Rob about, Mike? We could use the talk about the fans earlier, right? And you know, there's talk recently about reasons that Morgan left town, and whether you know, this is expected, unexpected. Who knows? Maybe we'll never know. But at the end of the day, you know, whether it was him greener fence or whether there was rumors out there that fans and he felt slighted by the fans, and you know, whether a product of being traded to Taylor Hall and that being one of the most lopsided trades in our history, and why do you want to be the guy for him? I'm not sure it is the most lopsided trades, but it polarizing at that time, right? And now he had a start to this year. You know, that he was getting yelled at when he took his dog for a walk. We do a a segment on the show here every once in a while when we feel and Darcy just wants to blow off some steam, but we're calling it our blowout, and you have the honors, sir, and let's tee up again because a tweet made me laugh last week, and we put, I'm an Oilers fan, I'm not an Oilers fan. Well said, friend. What do you think changed, man? What are we doing wrong here? Like,
I think people need to collectively just act. And it's so hard. I don't want to seem like I'm attacking anybody because it's not. And people are passionate. People want this team to do good, and they have all kinds of ideas of how the team can do better. But in the end, my philosophy is if it's out of my hands, then I back away from it. I live and let live, or live and let be, or whatever. So when it comes to that tweet, it was culminating in the draft and Holland needing to make these moves that everyone was dreaming up. But we're not in that office. We don't know who's in his ear. We don't know what Katz is telling him. We don't know what his plan is. He's talking to her what
Connor's telling him, what Lee is telling him.
So this is a PlayStation game where you can propose a trade and you can kind of muscle it, and just because this player's rating is 87 and that one's 87, there's the trade. And that just doesn't work that way. And the reason why sometimes I'm not a fan of our fans is because I start seeing people attack each other. So if I say don't agree with you, or I don't agree with Dursa, it's okay. Like, I see your side of it, and cool, but I'm not getting paid to run the Oilers. I'm not getting paid to make their decisions. Holland isn't phoning me for advice. I have zero impact on the team other than I. As a security, and in a long story short, this bothers me. When I first started years ago, people were very supportive. People talked. Friends. Now you see people aren't friends anymore. Following,
yeah.
And there's so much anger, and it's over political situations. People are calling each other idiots, and I'm just like, God, I'm so done. Because why can't I just enjoy it? We're trying to put the best product we can on the ice. We have no control over who does that. So take it in stride. Yeah, you get pissed off because it's human nature, but what is what we are, and if you can't accept it, then that tells me more about you.
We want to be right. I can't be in an armchair, Jim, if I want.
Yeah.
Why is somebody on Twitter have a effing loser because I want to quote an analytic? That's the type of fan I want to be. You be the fan you want to be. You'll be the fan I want to be. And if I want to talk about analytics and I want to judge Holland, that's up to me. I'm going to go to that and get a talk drop on the opening night and get my ass off. I always do. And I'll have parts. I have the right touch and I don't care. And I get in arguments with people in real life sometimes, and it's not your money, it is my money. I'm a season ticket holder, and I have it for years. I put thousands of dollars of my money in it, and I want to see a cup. I want to see victory. I want to have fun. I don't want to go to the rink and go, man, we're losing. So I think I do have a right to be able to kind of put my opinion in once in a while. So people say, who are you, the armchair GM? I do it basically. I have an opinion. I'm not on anybody wrong.
Yeah, and that's
boardroom.
Yeah, that's you're gonna have back and forth where the analytics side of it and all that stuff, like that's not quite because I don't have the time to do researching all that stuff and remembering all those numbers because I have a lot of other stuff just in my own personal work and with all the things that I've heard that if I start taking away from that, then I'm suffering personally in my life, right? So I appreciate guys like you or other analysts, guys that kind of really keeping an ear on because I read their tweets and I go, oh shit, okay, that. Or wow, that's a cool stat, or and I'll remember that. So it sounds like you are doing me a favor, but that's where instead of me calling you an idiot or another idiot or doing that, it's like just you do you on me. Let's see the middle, we're sharing for the same thing. We go in different ways, but yeah, it's similar. Some guys are making fast hits. Some guys are slow. Players, you need all those pieces. And maybe it's a shitty cliche, but as fans, every fan the way they fan coming together and say, "This is our team. Like, let's cheer for it." And when it comes to players, circling back to Larson, I'm sorry that he ever had that. Where his walk dog people, shit, stuff like that.
Yeah, embarrassing.
That. On the yeah, shoot, or yell at the guy.
Yeah.
But it's because we as fans were a lot more than they are when they're focusing on what they're doing, right? Set play. I got to get, we're all sitting 40, 50, 100 feet in the air. The whole big picture. So left side there, but out in public, stuff like that. That's and that's not a good. I'm not going to say that's not a good fan. That's not to do with being a fan. That's just not a good person.
Right.
It's harassing somebody in any shape or form in real life, whether a player mowing your lawn or some guy shooting the ball. You don't treat people like shit. Respect.
Yeah, that same guy is the one that's going to the restaurant and yelling at his waitress because he didn't know the water across.
Yeah.
Just,
and so you look at the other side too, and now it's not even just Larson. He's probably kind of fat. Are they going through this? You see tweets from players sometimes that say, "Hey, my wife is getting harassed online now. My family's threatened." Stuff like that. And it's like,
yeah,
it's shit. And it's hard in the social media age, and I just don't have time or patience with people. So
yeah, the same canoe there, kid. I couldn't agree more for sure. What do you think, Durs?
We were having some issues here with our